Raise their hands. Those are the folks that will be creating jobs. How can you say that they're going to be creating jobs when they themselves say they're not going to be creating jobs?
Well, I can say it easily because the entire corpus of the economic literature says so. You just did a random sample of N less than 30. Statistics require at least 30 data points to do any kind of science. And then if you control for other variables, you need more. So you just did a nice little sample of a few people. That doesn't tell you anything. The entire corpus of economic literature over the past 50 years since Solo wrote his piece, and then Mankiw, I did my piece on Mankiw at Harvard, and it all shows, on average, if you give corporations an incentive to invest in capital, they do so, right? Billionaires can only have so many boats and houses and whatever. The rest goes into the stock of the company. So you're trusting that
these corporations, which are already sitting on a ton of cash, over $1 trillion in cash, that by giving them more money, they're suddenly going to start saying, hey, I want to give this to my worker? Why aren't they doing it now? They already have a ton of cash, Congressman. Why are you so positive by giving them more money than you're giving the average American voter, that is somehow gonna transfer to regular people? If it's not already happening, they already are sitting on a ton of cash.
The answer is very easy. They do have a ton of cash, and so you'd have to be irrational not to invest that and make more unless the current environment is no good. And for the last 8 years, we've had just regulation on regulation on regulation, so the cash didn't go into the economy. That's what has to happen. Now the cash is going into the economy. The Federal Reserve is the best evidence of this. They're raising interest rates for the first time, right? A quarter. That tells you for the first time in the last 8 years they wouldn't do that. Now they're raising rates. That tells you they have confidence in the underlying economy as well as the stock market. They think that it's robust enough to raise interest rates. And so that shows you businesses will start to put all that cash that's been sitting on the sidelines at rest. That's a terrible thing. I agree with you. We want that invested in the economy, into capital equipment, to give workers wage rates. That's what, if the average worker, right, just look at General Motors or the assembly line, Henry Ford, you put capital in the hands of your workers, Americans do great things. And that's what we want to do.
Why not give that capital to the American worker through a tax cut that benefits them more than it benefits the most wealthy people in this country, the wealthiest of the wealthy, the top 0.01% of this country. Why not give it directly to them so they can go out and they can spend and they can start the economy, running again? I mean, it's running better than it had in the past, but why not just give them the money directly? My question to you, Congressman, is this about your donors? Chris Collins says it's about his donors.
If you're familiar with my election, that question is kind of humorous. But let me go back to the economics. Supply and demand. The demand side's the people. We're going to give them money. They're going to go out.
That wasn't a no.
It's a no. If you're familiar with my election, right?
I am familiar with your election.
Yeah, well then you know that.
I'm also familiar with you saying that you can't add to the deficit, and this adds to the deficit.
I'm a man of the people back home. My district knows who I am. I was a liberal arts professor, not raking it in. I'm one of the few people that got a pay raise when they came up to Congress. So my donor relations, it's all good, but that's not what drives me. Right? What drives me is economic outcomes that will help the American people in my 7th district, right? Chesterfield, Henrico, 10 counties. I want to do good for them. I want their kids and the kids I taught for 20 years to have multiple job offers. They don't have that right now. They go and search for one. They don't have multiple job offers where they can use their God-given talents to go out and, find the purpose and the passion in their life. That's what I want for these young kids, and that's what we're going to deliver today.
What's the median household income of your district?
It's right about 60.
We have it at 73,000, something around there. What are you making, if you don't mind? What's in your bank account right now?
In my bank account?
Well, what tax bracket are you going to be under this bill?
Well, of course, I got the chart for you here. I'll be probably in the 24% bracket.
24%
Everybody can
bracket?
go look up their rates. I had a guy at Arby's back home making 20 grand. Married, and he said, how am I going to do under this thing? I voted for you, and I don't know if I'll trust you Republicans anymore. I said, how much you make? He said, 20 grand. I said, you get the first 24 grand, zero tax rate. He said, that's not true. It says on the chart going from 10 to 12%, right? That was an old chart. I said, absolutely not true. And you Trust me, but wait till you see your paycheck. You're going to pay zero tax because the first $24,000 of income is not taxed for anybody.
So you're at 24%.
I mean, that's a pretty good story.
If we checked your tax returns for next year, you'd be at 24%.
Yeah.
Okay. Republican Congressman Dave Brat.
And what are you at? What are you at, Katie? Because I want to make sure you do well, too.
I haven't taken a look at it.
You don't know?
Republican. I'm also not a lawmaker, so I'm not involved in marking up this bill or selling it to the American people.
Well,
like
we'll check out what you're making, too, Katie, so it's fair and balanced.
Dave Brat of Virginia.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Joining us now to take a close